discussing motivation as part of the whole management process, because work motivation is extremely important. In our last discussion, we were trying to look at the theories which we find that Maslow, Herzberg, McGregor and Alderfer, in all the four theories there is a kind of a comparison, because the thread for these theories have been taken from Maslow's propositions. And as you can see that Herzberg's motivator, hygiene and job enrichment factors relate to the higher order needs as explained by Maslow's theory, that is self-actualization and self-esteem needs. And when we are talking about the lower order needs, the hygiene, maintenance and dissatisfier factors come into this category. As we have understood these theories, that in terms of Herzberg's theory, the lower order needs or the hygiene and maintenance factors are the prerequisites for the higher motivation. That means if you want good work motivation, you need to give them at least a bare minimum satisfaction of the lower order needs. But in addition to this, well, yes, Alderfer has talked about growth, relatedness and existence. And as we can see that the lower order needs relate to existence, and then the social in between needs relate to growth and to relatedness, relatedness, and the higher order need relate to growth. Now, very close to this is a theory that is proposed by McClelland, who has talked about the achievement motivation and power motivation. The idea is that there is some higher order motivation need to achieve, and then also the need to achieve power. This is a great motivator, intrinsic motivator for work motivation. Now, in addition to these motivational aspects, in fact, we are just now coming to discuss some of the practical applications of these theories as being applied in most of the organizations today. So, they do not remain only at the theoretical level, these have been translated into very practical motivational strategies. Now, in addition to this, when we are talking about motivation, we have to understand that how when people get involved in the work situation, work involvement, what we find that these are also related to the type of HRD climate or the type of authority that we have in the organization. So, if we draw that relationship here, that is depicted something like this, that the organization could be a coercive organization, could be utilitarian organization, or maybe a normative organization. And the type of involvement that we might have could be alienative, could be calculative, and could be moral involvement. When we say alienative, that means the person just comes for work because he has to do some work, and perhaps in his perception work is nothing motivating, and it's very it's like a drudgery kind of a thing. But the person has to do something, so the person is at the place of work. And calculative, a fair day's pay for fair day's work. So, I will work whatever I get in return, how much I earn, I will work only, I will do only that much of work. But in moral involvement, there is no such calculation of any kind, or there is no alienation of any kind. when a person is morally involved, person believes that this is my duty and so I have to do it. Therefore, to motivate people, we should have moral involvement, and for moral involvement, as we can see, that even the authority standards have to change. Okay, if manager is too coercive, and you expect that the moral involvement is going to really function very well, perhaps it will not function that well. So now you can see that in motivation there are other aspects of HRD climate which also creep in, and the managers have to be very I should say careful and enlightened about some of these issues. So in fact sometimes we can say that even managers have to look into their managerial style, their own managerial style, because there was a time people believed that okay, managers have to be coercive, and you can only use the some kind of a stick or some kind of a characteristic approach, but that doesn't work anymore. As we have changed and the whole social change has taken place, that doesn't work anymore. And therefore, we'll expect the managers also to have different kind of authority pattern in organizations. Now, the very important issue that relates to job performance is job satisfaction. Generally, it is believed that job satisfaction will lead to job performance. Maybe most of you believe that the happy worker perhaps is the most efficient worker. Many managers believe that, and we had been thinking about this relationship in this way for many years. But as we have many researches, many propositions have brought out the dynamics of this relationship in many different ways. In fact, the relationship is rather complex, because job satisfaction may lead to job performance. Here I have shown you the three types of relationships, and you can see that the job satisfaction may lead to job performance. Okay, this could be one explanation. Okay, the idea is that job satisfaction leads to job performance. That is one proposition, and perhaps traditional one. We always thought it this way. So managers believe that job satisfaction, that the happier workers are the better workers. But as researchers go, we find that in some cases the relationship is reverse, in the sense if you have performed well, you get greater satisfaction. You can think about it even in terms of your own performance, that sometimes if you perform better, you feel much better about the situation. So, job satisfaction might also lead to job performance. But interestingly, we find that there are yet another group of factors. There could be some third causal factor. There could be a factor, okay, say for example, the third variable, which is we can call it as a causal variable, which leads to satisfaction as well as performance, which leads to satisfaction as well as performance. And when we calculate the relationship, it appears as if job satisfaction and job performance are highly correlated. But when we go into deeper into that, we find that the relationship is actually not direct. It is because of a third causal factor. Let us say money could be a causal factor. For example, here we have also given that example of money could be a causal factor. And some of the recent studies are trying to say, they are suggesting that in addition to these three we can say the theoretical positions, we have a fourth one that has come up in the recent years, which is talking about intervening variables. That means the relationship is intervened by number of factors. Okay. These intervening variables could be your personal choices, these could be your personality, these could be your perceptions about various situations in life, this could be your need. See, today someone needs, say, so much money, okay, perception changes and one is working towards that. But tomorrow suppose need changes, then the perception might change. So, what we are trying to understand in within our motivational explanations, that the dynamics of motivation are very complex, especially if we are looking at the relationship between job satisfaction and job performance. Therefore, if managers start believing that they can, in a very simple way, they can explain behavior at work and manage people, perhaps that is not true, because manager has to really think very deep while designing this system. We are discussing motivation, and as you find that motivation is a very complex subject. Now, if we are trying to understand the dynamics of motivation, we have to understand that what are the characteristics of an individual, what are the characteristics of the job that he is performing, and what are the characteristics of the work environment. I will explain this. Let us see the, and you can see that there is a reciprocal interaction among these variables, and therefore, here are some of the examples of the characteristics of employees. Basically, personality traits of an individual. Here the list of course is not exhaustive, some examples are these, that one could have be extrovert or introvert. Naturally, the introvert person will have different kind of a perception in different kind of a HRD climate, and the extrovert person who is always a high energy person perhaps is looking at a different kind of a role and different kind of a work environment, including the kind of job that the person might be seeking. Locus of control, this is again a personality trait which talks about that where lies the locus of your control, that means is it within you or outside you. we all attribute some reasons to our behavior and some reasons to our success and failures. If we succeed, often we say, because I did it, and if we fail, often we say, oh, luck was bad. But some of us are very realistic. Some of us do say, no, I failed because I did not do this work, I did not prepare well, I did not study. Okay. But others might say, oh, teacher was bad, subject was boring, okay, it was raining, okay, I got up very late, and so there are so many reasons my luck was really bad. So, if we start believing on these external factors, we are externally controlled. But if we start believing that no, failure is because of me, perhaps I should have worked much harder, then this is the situation for internal locus of control. You understand? This is a very interesting personality trait. Now, if you have that as a personality trait, and you are put on a particular job with a particular kind of a HRD climate and particular kind of a industrial organization, you can see that the combination is going to be different. Similarly, aggression, not all of us are equally aggressive, but aggression also becomes our personality trait, okay? Low aggression and high aggression. Machiavellism is yet another personality trait, and in fact, many of us are high Machiavellis. The reason for that is that this term has been borrowed from the earlier writing about Machiavelli the king, and the idea here is that this trait refers to that when we make use of tactics in our behavior, okay. So, we have many tactics, strategies, okay, and some of us are very simple, straightforward, we are not using any tactics or strategies, okay. So, high Machiavelli and low Machiavelli, this has again become a personality trait. Emotional intelligence, in addition to the normal concept of intelligence that we are talking about, the mental ability. In the recent years, we are talking about emotional intelligence, which refers to your social intelligence in some way. Okay. So, in addition to emotional intelligence, we do need normal intelligence also, but emotional intelligence is important at the place of work. So, this is a personality trait. Then of course, type A and type B personalities and self-esteem. Well, list can go on about personality traits. These are just a few examples. Idea is that when we are looking at motivation, motivation has intrinsic characteristic, and so as a result of your personality, your behavior and your expectation and your motivational requirements perhaps change. The second parameter is the work environment. It could be HRD climate, including the level of authority as we have spoken just now. Just a short while ago we were talking about the different types of authority that a manager might use in the organization. But in addition to this, uh, we have different parameters which make organizations different. Let us see the size of an organization. Say so whether it's a small company, large company, an entrepreneur's company, multinational company, okay, and the number of employees working there, because this will affect your overall social environment at the place of work, and will be related to also technology to some extent, that in some technological situations you have lot of face to face contact, and if you are a very social type of person, say extrovert person, then you will look for lot of social interaction. But sometimes technology does not provide that kind of a situation at the place of work. Similarly, work culture of an organization, the production system, in the sense what type of, suppose if I take engineering industries, then what type of production system is it, which is related to technology, of course. It can be a design unit, it could be an IT unit, it could be a batch production of big machines, it could be an assembly line, it could be any type of production system which is related to the kind of technology that you have, and that affects also man at work, and so affects the motivation. Okay. Then of course, the formalization. In very small unit, perhaps the formal system may not be that much stringent, but we do need some kind of a formalization in the larger units. Then professionalism, how professional the company is. Hierarchy of authority, again this is related to the also the large and small company, in the sense the level of hierarchy perhaps will increase if the company is larger, even though they say that if we have flattered the organization better, perhaps it would be. But sometimes we have no choice, we need to have different levels of hierarchy because of the reasons of technology, because of the reasons of production system, because of some of the business strategies. So, the hierarchy of authority, who reports to whom, this is important. And in a typical organization, the hierarchy of authority, that from the lowest person is reporting to is the next senior person, and then the next senior person, and so on. When we look at participative management kind of a system, then the authority comes from the top to bottom and from bottom to top. That means it's both way, the flow of information and flow of say ideas, it goes in both ways in participative management. Okay. Otherwise, in a normal system, the command comes from top and then reporting goes from the bottom. In participative management, we are trying to sort of break that, and we are trying to say, let there be very free flow of communication, let there be a greater kind of a human relations at the place of work, when we are using the participative management philosophy as a philosophy of management. Now, when we are talking about types of organizations, we have talked about small industry, large industry, we also have multinational organizations, and as you can see that when we are talking about multinational organizations, there are so many parameters to that. The multinational companies operating in India, okay, naturally they have their technical aspects, and then there is a some kind of a matching with the Indian culture when they come and operate here. So there is a some kind of a multinational effect in the work culture of these organizations. Okay, sometimes in terms of dress, sometimes in terms of discipline, sometimes in terms of expectation, sometimes in terms of course the technology might be they brought some technology, and the Indian culture how to make best use of that. So, the multinational organizations are operating in India in a big way now, and we have done some studies also on the multinational organizations and people working there, the Indians. Okay. Well, when we are looking at multinational organizations, in addition to understanding the multinational organizations operating in India, we have yet another aspect of international organization. That means Indians, they go abroad and they work in some industries or some organizations there. Okay. Obviously, they are going there with their culture, their expectation and so on, and then they work there. So, some kind of a matching, some kind of a we can say the development of that adaptation to that culture becomes very important. When we are talking about types of organization, normally in types of organization we talk about profit making organizations, but there are many organizations which are also non-profit making. And when we are talking about managing, we are talking about both the profit making as well as non-profit making organizations. You understand what is a non-profit making organization? Non-profit making organization could be what? A social organization or which type of organization? Any idea you have? Non-profit making organization? Okay. Educational organizations are the non-profit, supposed to be non-profit organizations, because they have much higher goals. The purpose of these organizations are different. Okay. The production organizations, industries, the purpose of these organizations of course will be profit making, because production organizations generate wealth for society. No society can survive, no nation can survive unless we generate wealth. And industries and profit making organizations, they also generate wealth for society. But we also need organizations, educational organizations, and they have another great responsibility. At the level of schools, of course, it is the responsibility of socialization of the citizens of the country, and at the level of higher levels, higher academic institutions, well, like IITs, we are generating knowledge. Okay, and we develop the higher degree of knowledge, the R&D activities, and of course these are extremely important for any society. So, when we are talking about types of organizations, you can see now the profit making, non-profit making. In non-profit making organizations, you have some other examples perhaps which did not come to your mind, but let us see the army or the municipal corporations. Okay, they are all for the social development, okay, and we need the management strategies for them as well. Okay, and no society can survive without them too. So, when we are talking about the motivational strategies and the type of organizations, we have to look at all the parameters of types of organizations, which include profit making, non-profit making, industries, schools, army, municipality, hospitals for example, hospitals, the government hospitals if I say, non-profit making. So all these constitute different types of different categories of organizations. And now you have seen the individual and his characteristics, her characteristics, and when they are working in an organization, you can see the combination, how many different combinations will emerge, finally that you can see. Okay. And the next parameter are the characteristics of the work itself. We have talked about job enrichment earlier in Herzberg's theory. We will again come to its application later, but in Herzberg's theory we have talked about job enrichment factor. Here we are trying to talk about the characteristics of work. There are, in fact, in your occupational choices, and when we were talking about Holland's proposition also, we were talking about different types of work choices that people might have. So, the characteristics of work could be a very routine type of work, it could be an intellectual type of work, could be a conventional work, say accountancy, library science, that kind of a work. It could be a very flexible work, say decision makers, managers, managerial role, decision making, very flexible, very autonomous, and you can have creative work also. There are many there are many works which are also creative, in the sense a designer's work. I am sure sometimes the software development that people do, they find it very creative, even though even in creativity we are working within certain parameters. Okay. So, the person who is designing engineering systems, or the person who is also doing software designing, within the parameter of the technical knowledge of that field, one can use one's creativity to do the work. And of course, some works some people have to do are also the stressful jobs, because we can't avoid, in society there are so many types of works that people have to do, and some stressful duties also some people have to do. Now, when we are talking about the issue of motivation, I take you back to this model again, and now you can see that work motivation is extremely complex, and the way we have tried to list the number of factors under these three categories and their interaction, work motivation becomes extremely challenging for a manager. But once you are aware of it, and once you are there in that decision making situation, I am sure you will be able to find a way out, in the sense that okay, this combination works, this is the type of person, perhaps he is best suited for this kind of a job. So, sometimes we have reallocation of work, when we sometimes we have retraining of people, we can train people, okay, we can sensitize them to different kinds of situations. So, managerial responsibilities are great in terms of getting work performance and in terms of utilization of all kinds of resources that we have. Because if a wrong person is allocated a job that the person is not interested, not motivated, he feels work as a drudgery, then as a manager you are going to be a loser. And that is why in most of the modern management practices, lot of emphasis has been given to motivation, work motivation strategies. Now we move on to some practical applications which are actually being practiced in some industries. Let us move on to see. Okay, so you have seen the type of organization, type of individuals and the characterization or the characteristics of work. Okay. This will characterize the overall scenario, and then of course, the finer details are there. When once you become a practicing manager, many other insights will come to you and you can very successfully combine all these. Now, we come to some of the motivational practices being used in the organizations, modern organizations I should say of today. So, some of the modern management practices are goal setting and MBO. MBO is management by objectives. MBO is management by objectives. Then you have work redesign. We all have work designs. In fact, any work that we are doing, it has a design. But we redesign work to motivate people. Also, we try to modify the behavior of people. At least we attempt to do it. If we find that okay, the person needs to modify his behavioral patterns, and of course, there is lot of importance of reward system in the overall work motivation situation. Let us see what do we mean by these. I will very briefly touch upon all these 4 points. Let us see. There are some theoretical propositions. Locke, a management thinker, has proposed the concept of goals setting, and in fact, they published in some of their literature some of the guidelines, we can say, that difficult goals lead to higher task performance than easy goals. Difficult goals lead to higher task performance than easy goals. Now, also in the work situation, either no goals or vague goals should not be used. I am sure whenever you try to achieve something, you have decided that okay, I want to achieve this goal, I want to achieve this, that is your goal. If you do not have any goal, then the way you put in your effort, perhaps it is not really channelized. So, you have to channelize your effort by fixing some kind of a goal or a target, as you can say. Okay. So, managers also fix, so we all do that for ourselves, but managers also fix some kind of a goal, and the guideline is that if you have the difficult goals first, perhaps you can have better success even for yourself. when you are designing your own goals, just jot down the goals that you want to achieve, and then first attempt the difficult one, because easier ones anyway will be easier and very easily, very quickly you can achieve those. So, first set your target on the difficult one, then you are relaxed. Also in the industries, we are using the goal setting exercises, and in fact goal setting as well as the management by objectives, both in both situations we find that there is lot of application of participative management techniques, because when you are setting the goal itself, manager can set the goal, but he can set the goal also using participative management technique involving people. Okay. So, everyone together they set goal, and once the goal is set, then you are on the job. Okay. This gives lot of impetus to the work situation. In fact, great idea in work motivation. So, the Locke Locke's concept of goal setting, they have given in fact number of factors, the mechanism, directing attention, mobilizing efforts, search for appropriate performance strategies, feedback, goal commitment, in fact here we have also listed, they have also listed participation in goal setting, reward, particularly money reward, may encourage and lead higher goals. So, in the goal setting we can also design the goal setting exercise by including participative management strategies as well as some incentive plans. So, when we say money rewards, that means some kind of an incentive plan is also built into that whole exercise of goal setting. And then of course, the individual differences, when we have talked about the personality traits, basically that refers to individual differences. So, the individual differences in goal setting effectiveness must be considered, and which we have just now discussed in our module, the characteristics of the person or individual. So, in fact, we are taking all those three parameters also here in goal setting in some way or the other, but okay, these are practical applications of the motivational strategies being used in many industries. Therefore, in goal setting, under goal setting we are doing management by objectives. In goal setting, this special case is management by objective. This is a pragmatic use of goal setting, we can say that. And in this module, it is depicted that employees and managers are there. We set hard and specific goals. We have to be very clear about specific goals, remember. If we are vague in deciding about goals and goal attainment, then we may not have that much success. Therefore, specific, and as we have discussed earlier, the hard or difficult goals should be set first. then in that we have to consider the individual differences, the earlier model we have seen. Also, we have to see that coordination and communication are taken care of. That means, between managers and the employees, there should be very good communication and there should be good coordination. This will lead to performance and overall productivity. So, whenever even you can experiment on this, that whenever you have to achieve some kind of a performance in anything, you can also attempt to use goal setting and involve them in the goal setting process, and then see that who are the people good at goal setting in a particular area, and then set the goals and then give them the green signal. Okay, now we have set the goal, let us go ahead and achieve the whatever goals are. So, there is a time frame also, there is a quality also, and there are specific, say, production standards, and there are some specific requirements of each work. Everything has to be set under the goal setting guidelines. And once you have achieved results using goal setting, which this is special case we are calling as the management by objectives. So, objectives are the goals and we are managing using this particular theory, management by objectives, to achieve our goals. And there is a feedback. You can see that in this model we have also shown that from the performance and productivity there is a feedback. So, every time we set goals, because there are major goals, there may be major goals, and there may be within that major goal there may be minor subsets also, minor goals also. So, when you are using this management by objective exercise, then first you have to do your homework as to what goals to be achieved, what is the time frame, what are the incentive strategies, what are the sub goals, and if you know your group, then who are the people